Just to comment on your question. A koyach bli gvul, like chokhmah, is in itself attestation to the principle that this is all created milmaila. Chokhmah really is a presentation of nefesh, of rotzen and noineg, and beyond. And we explained many times, I don't want to go into this now, yet we explained many times that the principle that the panorama principle, that at a glance we can see an unlimited view, is not that we are seeing the view itself, but we are seeing it from its inception, from its source. We're seeing it as a reality that's being created. Because to see the phenomenon itself in an instant is not possible.
Yeah.
To see it in an instant and an unlimited view is not possible.
What's the question? And seeing at its source is possible.
I'm sorry?
And seeing at its source is possible in an instant?
Seeing at its source is possible in an instant, because seeing at its source is not the experience of seeing, it's the experience of being shown.
That's the reality, that it's being shown.
Right, that's being shown.
And this, as Huna says, this you can see in an instant.
This you can see because you're not seeing it from your perspective, you're seeing it from the perspective of the shower. You have to say something to say, I just want to add this. This is the similar inyan, this is very important to understand. The inyan of Arab that we was teaching and learning from somebody, was learning from Arab. Learning is that you're learning not that you are investigating from your own awareness, how is this? You are being taught, and what you are understanding is, this is how the Rav understands it. You're not drawing it from its source. You're drawing it from what's being shown, taught to you.
So that's even another look. That it's shown to you is different from its source.
It's from its source, but how do you get to the source? It's being presented to you.
Okay, in our delvings here, we come to know that what's shown to us is from the source, but the source itself is not accessible.
The source itself is not observable.
Okay, observable.
Yeah, of course not.
But the source's presence is observable. That's what's
the effect, the
of
effect of its presence. Yeah.
of its presence.
Yeah.
That's the effect of his presence is the shown.
Mm-hmm.
You started off by saying that, just to add another question, I was asking what's the question? Or is it just
No, what?
We started off, when you started explaining about Chokhmah, you prefaced it by saying another question, a new question.
Or to answer the question.
That was the question that.
Oh.
It was, at one point, Paltiel said the word koyach, the phrase koyach bli gvul. So he said, well, that sounds like a stira.
Sorry? That's why Chokhmah is called a koyach bli gvul. How can a koyach be bli gvul? Because the quality of Chokhmah is that it takes things with beetle. So it takes things at their inception, not with its own parameters. And that's why it's able to take. We have experienced this because this is a phenomenal thing in our world, in our own experience. Like you mentioned the relationship between father and son. Can that be encapsulated? Can that be captured any kind of a demonstration? Like I said, between friends, how do you describe a friendship? They greet each other at their birthdays. At any one of the at any special occasion. We pointed out, this is prevalent in our world, and the reason it's prevalent in our world is because our world, in fact, is a godly creation. Everywhere. This is why the Torah says, that the recognition, the definite one has to be have to be his parents, is comparable to that of Kibbud Hashem. Why? Not because the parents are of such a caliber, but because this whole phenomenon of parents and children is a godly presence.
So is this the answer to the question that we had, that how can you have bleed rule in Keli? Because it's not the bleed rule is not actually in the Keli. The Keli is just observing or taking the bleed rule that's really coming from the source.
Oh. So the Rebbe is pointing out, yes, it is coming from the source. But nonetheless, that source that comes is mislabesh in the keli b'pnimius. And it's mislabesh in the keli b'pnimius in such a manner that that which you know b'chokhmah, you can then transmit it to bina, and then you can transmit it into midas. And then it goes into machshava dibur ma'aseh. You actually act accordingly, because it becomes your own thinking.
That's like the nishma of nasa nishma.
That's right. Becomes your own thinking.
And this is retaining the bleed gul aspect of the original chacham.
That's right. And it's mislabish b'pnimius. And this is what the Rebbe is saying. How can it be mislabish b'pnimius? And this is what, ultimately, what the Rebbe is going to, is driving at. Is that the oiros that are mislabish in the kelim already have an element of gvul. Do not believe gvul mamash.
And this we don't say before the tzimtzum, or do we?
We don't say before the tzimtzum. But in tzimtzum you don't need to say that, because the kelim are not separate from the oil.
So we're saying that the or changes, when the tzimtzum happens, there's a change in the oros also?
Right. Even though it's chosev v'heir, it's the same oil, but still it goes through the tzimtzum. It's an oil that goes into the tzimtzum, and therefore it acquires the quality of being outside.
But doesn't the Rebbe ask a question? How can that maintain itself outside of Atzilus? How can that be true outside? Is that one of the questions? How can that bleed gvul aspect continue?
How can this bleed gvul be established in kelim, in Atzilus, and then further beyond Atzilus,
Which means biyah.
which would bring beyond?
Because the question is equal in Atzilus as to biyah, how it could be.
Even in Atzilus, it's a question. Certainly, if it is going in Nimshim Biyah.
Do we understand this yet?
No. This is the question. Let us refresh our sense of what we mean by oir. From time to time we have to go back to the principle. One place where we recognize oir, and then we'll take it elsewhere also. But this we need, in order to get an idea of what we're talking about when we say oir, is in our model of the host and the guest. The host is the one who invites the guest to be his guest for a meal, for breakfast. And the guest comes, and the host serves him breakfast. And then he says to him, enjoy your breakfast, I have to go. So we all understood that this is missing the whole point. And this is what we need to understand. What is missing? He is serving his breakfast. So obviously, we all recognize that there is something very special in his presence at the breakfast. This is what makes him a host. This presence is like oil. It's an intangible phenomenon. It cannot be translated in any practical and any action. As we can readily see, the breakfast does not capture it. And if the like we said, the host leaves, and if the guest takes the breakfast and says, "Okay, nice breakfast, I'm going home. I'm going to eat it at my own table," then again we'll say that this guest doesn't have any seichel. What doesn't he have? He doesn't have seichel. He has a taste for good food, but he doesn't have seichel. What's seichel? Seichel is primarily the chokhmah. This intangible sense of this reality, of the human reality.
What is the? I mean, the guest is a mensch unto himself. What is the host really? Why is it so significant that the host is enhancing him so much?
Good question. The host is not enhancing. The host is recognizing. And he recognizes the host. They're both recognizing each other's higher reality than what can be identified in a practical way. Which is only recognizable by the human being, by his intellect.
That there's a very human interaction going on there. It's more than human. It's like that there's a real interaction going on. That's what that's the seichel aspect of it.
What is a human interaction? Let's take that to the next step. The ox is infinitely more stronger than the human being. What's so special about the human being? Or the horse. We pointed out many times that even the horse recognizes that there's something special about the human being. Let a little child pull him, and he follows.
The human being is was given a mandate.
He was given a mandate. Very good. He didn't take the mandate. He was given a mandate. He represents something supreme in the world. This is what we call oir. The reason we call this oir, let me explain a step further. Oir is that which emanates from a fundamental reality, from an etzem. It's called an etzem. And in order to focus in on this etzem element, we took this to a different motion, to the motion of light, of physical light, of sun, versus artificial light. Artificial light, now it's light that illuminates, makes you able to see things around you. Practically speaking, that's all you need from light. And yet, daylight has a completely different message, different effect. Daylight is not the principle that you're able to see across the street. Do we understand that? Light that we have right here, this light is a subset, a very poor subset of daylight. You're trying to emulate daylight, but there's no way you can emulate it.
By daylight, you see the whole world is different. The world
Daylight is a different
transformed.
world. This is what we asked the other day. What is the world on the primary level, primarily, on the foundation level? Is it light or dark? What is more fundamental in reality, light or dark?
Dark. The physical is dark.
Obviously, you weren't present when you discussed it that time.
From a physical perspective, it would be darkness. But you're saying a different question.
Right. The physical world is fundamentally dark. But what is in reality fundamental in terms of what's more real, dark or light? Where does everything come from? From darkness or from light?
Light shows that there's a plan.
What?
Light shows that there's an overall. Things make sense there's a plan. They fit
True.
together. Everything is a unified environment.
Let me put it in other terms, okay? This is kind of important. This is what Chassidus, what Yiddish is all about. In darkness, you can identify everything that's in the room. And in light, you identify everything in the room. What is the difference between this identification and this identification? Like I said this morning, the reason we're able to learn these things and talk about them is not because we can put them in seichel, but because we're talking to people who have the quality higher than seichel, the chokhmah. So if you're asking your chokhmah, what is the difference between knowing things by touch in darkness or knowing things in light? This is the question that you're asking your own chokhmah, your own seichel. because if I'm going to, which I did already, put in words and so on, it's not going to be that reality. It's important to find this in your own seichel. Once you find it in your own seichel, then that becomes you. Then that becomes you. That becomes you on the practical level. This is, I'll put it in our world. This is very, very simple. The whole world has come to believe that everything that a person does is all reactive. Reactive means he's hungry, so he eats. He's trying to protect himself against some negative effect. He's afraid of an enemy, so he builds a house. He's afraid of bad weather, so he builds a house. There's nothing positive in it. It's not proactive. Okay? This is nothing new in our discussions, but this is how things are in the dark. This is what the world is. If we leave the world to its own devices, without the godly presence, this is what it would be. I want to take this a step further. You will see where that leads. And this is in fact, unfortunately, this is how the world sees things. You want to succeed in business? Hello? The reason you want to succeed in business is because you don't want your competitor to do better than you.
I don't have competition.
Huh?
I don't have competition.
You're not competition. Can you imagine if that's a thought process? The reason you want to live is because you're afraid of the opposite. Not because you want to live. That's how far it goes. But the Rebbe gave us a neshama that's alive. And we primarily are alive, not the opposite. Like we said the other day, the story with the Ben Rashab, you know what I'm referring to? The Rebbe asked the Goy al-Habga, why did you eat? So that I would live. What is the natural answer? What is the Goyish answer? What is the animal answer? Because I was hungry. It's extremely important that we recognize, we identify in us this neshama quality, which is uniquely human. This is why the human being is so unique in the world, and this is why he is so respected. This is his awe. This is his oir. He brings to the world a positive, a real presence. A real presence. Life in this world is for the sake of living, not for the sake of not dying. This oir, Look how we are going in circles trying to identify it. How can we capture this oil in a keli? This is oil. This is oil in Chachma. How is that? Is that encapsulated in a keli?
Chaya and Mandy and the baby.
This is what Rebbe is asking. You're asking on the human level. You're asking the way it is not seen as oil in safe. This is where it all comes from.
And why is that? Okay, so.
What?
And what's the, based on the examples that you're giving, what would be the hard thing to the Chiddush, and why would it be so hard to be encapsulated in a keli?
You explain it. We are trying to explain what this life is, and we can't. We're only demonstrating it. Exactly what we see. We're only demonstrating it. And the reason we're able to understand it is because we all have it. Not because we understand it.
So where is the keli aspect?
The keli aspect is that we understand it, that we experience it, relate to it.
But we can't. Okay. So that's the big rule and the rule.
But we can't really encapsulate it. What's it about? If it's in a keli, it has to have. What is it about?
I missed this point. If it's in a keli, how can it be?
How can the oil will be contained in a keli?
Is it something like living out of your fears? Stepping out of the chains. That's one example.
One example. Yeah, but do you understand it?
No, but I'm saying it, so I get a response from you if it's a way of getting to it in a way, because that could put a person into a very happy, and when a person is happy, it's a lot. It's a lot of accomplishment when he's really, really happy. So at a state of that, at a state like that, it could make him maybe understand more and reach it more.
That's definitely correct. In order to understand anything on Chassidus, you have to be a simcha. There's no question about it.
Because the way you explain it, living,
This is why we say all the time that if we experience Chokhmah for a moment, like sight, already this person is in a different category.
It's what?
It's in a different category. So it is worth it to all the effort to get a glimpse of it. Is already worth the effort.
It's already what?
Worth the effort.
What's the effort?
Just 1 second. Just want to point out, we say it all the time. This is the first Simcha Shulchan Aruch. This is what Ayin's life is based on. He wakes up in the morning. That's a very good moment to identify this, because he's very comfortable in his bed. And it says Moide Ani, and he gets him out. What gets him out?
The chokhmah?
So the world says that it's Folgers coffee.
The world says
It's
The what?
Folgers,
It's coffee.
the best part of waking up.
mhm.
And we are working on finding in ourselves as this highest that is completely in a different realm than the Folgers coffee. But the world unabashedly says that this is what waking up in the morning is about. It's an insult, but the world doesn't recognize it as an insult. Sounds like a pretty smart thing to say.
I saw
Did they really say that? I don't understand.
Huh?
Did they really say that?
Yeah, I heard this
No.
commercial.
Never heard that commercial?
But that's not what they really said. They say Folgers helps them be awake.
I saw a
That's part
video
of waking
clip.
up.
I know, but they say it's
I
help them
saw
be
a
awake.
video clip using that the whole song and something, and making it the most ridiculous
Well,
thing.
there's more to it.
Very, very funny. I don't know when it was done, but it was very.
All right. Yes, yes.
I want to go back to the mashallah, the host and the guest that you're using to define or.
The what?
You
Or, yeah.
chose the host, the mashallah, the host and the guest to
Identify.
define or.
Mhm.
And then you compare it. We went into the day. Now, when the host and the guest are in presence of each other, the presence of the host makes it happen. And by this, the presence has been established. If the presence is such a fundamental, such a strong concept, when the host leaves, it should permeate, it should continue. The or that was established should continue, like the day illuminates the world. The fact that the host leaves should not terminate the process.
Excuse me. Follow through on your own logic, on your own statement. How long does it take to become night after the sun sets?
Half an hour.
What?
Half an hour.
After the sun sets?
Between day and night, there's a half hour of.
No, that's not
Twilight.
between day and night. That's bright day and evening. But the minute the sun goes away, it's dark. The world doesn't retain light without the sun.
What I'm saying is,
Is it still light?
no, but what I'm saying is that the quality of the presence of the host is such a strong, such a fundamental element that it should be continued whether he's there or not. I just have this thought.
Okay. And
I guess it shows that it's not so fundamental. In other words, that it's the fact that it does disappear, or that it can disappear,
You
is
can't pocket it.
it does not disappear. You know why? Because the host is still there.
The host is still there.
The host is still there.
Yeah, that's what I
So,
meant.
but if the host should really disappear, then would be nothing there.
I don't know.
You just said there's levels of or now. We're saying there's levels of or, we're saying, from the presence of those.
We have the other illustration of Odom Shein Lebayis in a Odom. That a human being in a home fills the entire home. That's also a halachic thing. A human being in a home fills the entire home. How does he fill the entire home?
Automatic.
Huh?
Automatic.
How does he fill the entire home?
It actually comes to the same idea. When he is not there, he still fills the entire home, even when he's not there.
No. He fills the entire home because he's there, even if he's not physically there.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
No, but he is there. He is there because it's his home. Odom, that's exactly what I'm saying. Odom Shein Lebayis in the Odom does not mean he doesn't have a home to eat, lunch. Doesn't have a place in the world that is his. No matter where he is, that place is his.
What I'm saying is that it's the same idea that
No,
I'm
it isn't
trying
the
to
same.
develop, is that
Kislev, let me talk.
is that the owner of a home, his presence is there whether he's in the home or not.
That's right, because he
You
owns
know
it.
that?
Because he owns it. So he's there.
So why does it get affected if he leaves, you're saying?
So he's there. He never leaves.
If he gives up ownership, though,
You're
it's
saying you get
So how do you feel if you're invited, you're invited to the home, and you come, and he's not there, you're going to be satisfied that it's owned by him? That's not the marshal. The marshal is
The
Mashalim shine a certain aspect.
Listen,
I understand. We've
let-
been developing this measure for years.
Yeah.
I understand it perfectly.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a situation where the host and the guest were in the presence of each other,
Right.
established how do you say, a bond, a relation, and that relation has its strength from the presence of the host. So what I'm saying is that if the host leaves, the presence is still there.
Would you do that to your guests?
No,
He's
Lisa,
not
one
saying
second.
he would do it. He's
No,
saying,
no.
why does it not persist? That's all.
He's asking, why is it not persist? If it's real, why did it go away?
Yeah, that's all.
The answer is, its reality is not in the tangible present. The reality is in the reality of the host. Even if the host goes away, their relationship is still there. But if the relationship is ceases, then there's nothing there.
Wait, their
If
relationship.
the host says, okay, you eat your lunch by yourself. I'm no longer your host.
Oh.
Right? You'll eat your lunch. I gave you your lunch, and that's the end. That encapsulates my invitation. That was he saying, I invited you to have lunch. I didn't invite you to be company. So there's nothing there.
But
One second. So what we are demonstrating, and this is important, what we are demonstrating is that the oil is not an entity, is not a tangible presence. Oil is the presence of the etzem, of the host. This is what the oil is. Like we said, and this let me go back to the sun, which is a little challenging, but at this point we should be able to see it. I said many times. Daylight, day, is not the light of the sun, which makes it possible for you to see things. Day is the presence of the sun itself. This is what gives you the aura that this is day. Why? Because sun has the special quality that sun does not emanate light, like fire emanates light. Sun is light. Etzem light. Like the first day of creation, there was light without a sun. This is very difficult for us to understand, to learn, because there's nothing physical there. But it's an amazing thing. The first day of creation, there was light without the sun.
So it's a different light. Are we saying it's a different light?
No, it's that's called the essence of light. That light represented the fact that the real reality is in light, not in darkness. Do I have someone with me here? Yes?
Yeah. Generally, yes. I'm just trying to understand this last mashal with the difference between the light on the first day and the light and what you mean, where you're trying to make a distinction over here.
Trying to make a distinction between light that is generated or light that is the reality of light itself.
In either case, the sun or the light of the first day, that's not generated light. Or you're saying
that's right. The light of the first day was embedded into the sun.
So when the sun now, that encapsulates the
essence
that
of light,
union.
Right. That's what we say. Okay, that's. So this oir, this whole discussion is to point out, oir does not have a means to be understood. What is it? Like a case of the host, a case of Odom Shinga Beis any Odom. What is the meaning of the home? You have your home, like I mentioned many times. You have a home, and this house has 3 floors: basement, middle floor, floor, and then there's an attic. After, on top of the place, there's an attic, which is just a vacant place. If you wanted to move into this attic and establish your residence there, where practically speaking it will not affect the owner of the house at all, would he have the right to force you out of there?
Mentioned that already.
Many times.
Yeah.
But I want you to understand. Would he have the right to force you out of there?
Yes.
Why?
Because he owns it.
So?
Disturbs his privacy. It's his.
No. Doesn't disturb his privacy. You don't see him. You can't see through the ceiling.
He is there.
Huh?
He is there.
What do you say? Would it be okay for somebody to move in somebody else's?
Because it's his house.
Why not?
Because it's his house. Like he's something on himself.
Why not?
Because it belongs to somebody else.
Yes. What do you do with property that belongs to you? You use it. This you'll never use. You don't even know what's going over there.
You're saying it's offending a reality that cannot be put into a practical.
That's right, into a tangible definition. This is what we're shooting at. We're saying the human being has a sense of a certain reality. Odom she'ein Beis ein Odom. Odom she'ein Beis is not one who does not have a place to sleep or eat. Like we pointed out, he may have a lot of places to eat, in the restaurants and in the hotels. But he doesn't have a place in the world. And that is what says he is not an Odom. What is that? Can we encapsulate this?
It doesn't sound like, from the examples that you were giving, it doesn't sound like it's a requirement of being in a keli to be able to define it. You explained that because we can relate to it, that already is in a keli. But we can relate to all these mishalim, but we don't define it. But you're still, and that's in a keli. So what's the question? It's like it's a circle. The question is, how can it be in a keli? Because a keli.
That's right. That's what the Rebbe is asking. How can it be? The Rebbe, and that's why the Rebbe says a special, separate statement. But it has to have been mislabish with pnimius in a keli.
But does mislabish pnimius mean you can define it, or it means you can relate to it?
Mislabish pnimius, every keli in its own way.
Didn't you say that mislabish pnimius means that keli should modify it according to its parameters?
That's right.
So what we're talking about right now, right? That we say, like what you mentioned, all this masholim that we just brought the oil, which we can't define, we can define it, but we can relate to it, right? So how is that islapshus dupnimius in our kelim?
That's what Yehud is asking.
Sorry, I mean, yeah, right, exactly. So okay.
Yeah, that's all right. So now, let's take this a step further. If it is not the islapshus dupnimius, why would it bother you if he's in the attic?
But because he has to go in and out of there. He's going to disturb the owner. If he
has a special entrance.
If he goes up and down there, he's going to be in the presence of God.
Assume that he'll find another way that he'll enter there without at all disturbing you.
Like a squirrel.
Zero. He will not disturb you. If he disturbs you, of course he can. There's no question.
Reflects your presence.
So if it wasn't mislavish but pnimius, he would be completely unaffected by it. He would be totally indifferent to whether the fact that he cares means that there's something.
He doesn't care. The fact that he knows about it, and he says, "No, you can't be there," it means that there is something there. His presence there. That presence does not exist on a Shava Dibur Maisel level, but it exists on the Chochmah level, on the Seichel level. As a matter of fact, it is only a Seichel in him. It's not. There's no emotional aspect at all. What's it in the Seichel? Okay, Daniel.
Yeah.
What is so special about the human being? What did Odom she'ein Beis ein Odom? What is it?
He recognizes the presence of the Creator.
Huh?
His main function is to recognize the presence of a Creator.
What does that mean?
That means
How is that the fact that AyinBase any Odom?
Part of his mandate.
Is it that he is representing the Creator in the world, and the Creator belongs in his world. He has to be part of the world.
The Eibishter is an owner, and he gave ownership to the human being.
His ownership is not by his own acquisition.
so it's given to him.
Sorry? It was given to him by whom?
By God. By the Creator.
What?
By the Creator.
By the Creator. His presence in the world is on par with the Creator's.
Are you saying that just like Hashem owns the world, so human being also has to own it?
He owns it. Hashem gave it to him.
No, I mean this whole thing that if you don't have a house and you're not a person, is that because
because the definition of a person is that he owns the world.
that he owns the world?
Yeah. Whose definition is it? It's God's definition.
Also the presence, we can say that the presence in the home, or the presence of the guest, the presence of the host is a metaphor for Hashem's presence.
Yeah. See, this is the whole thing that we're taking. The human being is in a different category than everything else in the world. We always speak about self-respect. And we always explain, we don't mean self-respect, respecting your nose. Self-respect is respecting what was imbued into you by the Creator. When a person acts, and we say eats in an unrespectful way, he eats in the street. He eats in the street means that he doesn't have a real place in the world. He's empowered to do it, l'habel. But the Gemara says,
So, when you compare, you say, why is a human being superior than an animal? You can't answer that question based on the virtues of what human being, his qualities. You have to answer that question purely from what he was given. What the Creator decided. He's
absolutely,
superior.
absolutely. And that's why in the world, when you say a human being is superior to an animal, you say, Rabbi,
it's not on a worldly
how can you say that?
It's only if you recognize that there's a Creator that you can answer that question.
That's right. Only to recognize that there's a creation. Only to recognize that there is a creation, you recognize that the human being has a different presence than everything else. You can eat animals, but Rahman Islam, a human being, that's a violation of the godly reality. This is the meaning that the human being has an oir. And he can be present in this home, no matter how big the home is, and he fills this home. But again, we said, and here is where the panemius comes in. It has to be a home that is suitable for the human being. That he, in his seichel, can surmise what this home is about. If he declares the Empire State Building as his home, it loses that aura. He still owns it, but that's about it. It's a property.
So when the guy is living in the attic, the only reason why he would want him out is because he decides in his seichel that it's inappropriate for him to be there. It doesn't.
That's right.
It's a
It doesn't
seichel
disturb him
reality.
at all. That's right. It doesn't disturb him at all. There's an interesting law in this country. Law of the squatter. Squatters, they found an empty house. It belongs to somebody. And they moved in. And you can't get them out. Imagine they moved into your attic while you're living there. Even by American law, they'd be able to get them out. You would sue them for trespassing, and in no time they'll be out. Even though they moved into your attic.
So wait, if the house is unoccupied, they take...
It's property. It's not your home. It's two different concepts.
Right, and they take on ownership.
You don't take ownership. They live there.
Uh-huh.
You don't disturb anybody. You can't get them out.
Because there was no presence to start with.
What?
Because there was no presence.
That's right. There was no. It was not a home. It was a property. There's a deal. As I said, if your Empire State Building is your home, it's not your home. It's your property.
You have to relate to this physical space in seichel. Somehow that makes the presence.
You have to relate to. Yeah, you have to relate not to the physical space, to the concept. You have to relate to the concept. So we're going in circles over here, and we are struggling. But if we understand this principle, it's all worth it. Not for the sake of understanding the human being, understanding the godly reality in the world. Like the Rebbe says, he said, the Amadreges, I don't know of the Inyan of Lukus Lagami. What is a Lukus? It's the words in our mind. What is a Lukus? We stopped on this many times. What is a Lukus? A Lukus is the pshat emes. Emes does not need dimensions, presence, effect, reason. This is what you say. That's why I pointed out. Okay, 3 lines from the bottom of this top section.
What that?
Page Chobzayim. Ho'emes eid le'atzmoi. What does that mean?
Truth bears witness to itself.
Huh?
Truth bears witness to itself.
Truth bears witness to itself.
This is like we hold these truths to be self-evident.
There is not a tangible means by which you say, oh, this is what happens. This is the consequence of this. There's no consequence. This emes encompasses the entire reality, and there's no consequence.
Why does the Rebbe Rashab bring our attention to this at this point? What have we discussed here that perhaps I said this, that the oiras are mislabish in kelim. What we are now pointing out. Yeah, your home is a very important thing. But if your home is established in an Empire State Building, that you cannot really relate to it as a home, it's not a home. It's definitely your property. But there's no hislapshus in the cave.
So if there wasn't hislapshus, it wouldn't be an eid ba'atzma. There would be no testimony. There would be.
That's right.
The fact that you can testify to emes means there's hislapshus.
The emes testifies for itself.
That's hislapshus. Because it's testified.
That shows that it's hislapshus. Well, emes eid li'atzmai. If you move into my home, into my attic, I will not be able to tolerate it. You'll be infringing on what? On my comfort, on my privacy, no, on my reality. On my dignity, on my reality of who a human being is.
And that's that's truth bearing witness to itself?
Yeah, because you can't explain it. What's in it?
And the fact that it has to declare anything shows on his slapshus. There'd be no declaration if it was above.
Hislapshus, I'm going to say, hislapshus means it's eid b'keli, which means the keli identifies the soir. And if it were not a suitable keli, then it would not be identified. And we have this is something that lends itself to us very clearly.
Keli here was the seichel of man.
The keli here is the seichel of man.
So inside the mimer, the bleed blue that's in the ore bleed blue is benemius in the keli. Even we say it's a reality. The very fact that it is, that's its reality.
So we explained what ligula. I don't know exactly what you. I just preempted your question if I understand where you're going. Bli gvul is not measurable in terms of its size. Bli gvul is the depth and the truth of it. It's unlimited real truth. In other words, like we said, ownership is a godly stamp, declaration. There is no practical consequence of it. That's mean bleak wool.
What is the truth of Oris bleak wool Panemius in a keli? What is that a truth?
Yes. That's what we said. You sense the principle. I mean, in our example, you sense the principle of ownership, of a human ownership of a home. A homeless person is one of the most tragic experiences of a human being. So, what's a home? A home is the property that you own. But you say, no, it's not a property that you own. It has to be a home that that he can embrace, that you can relate to. Like Chochmah. Chochmah we say is a mashal for sight. Right? A pshat is a mashal for Chochmah. And we say, what's sight? Sight is that which you can glance at an instant. If you have to go and discover it, that's a different world away. Okay, yes, no?
I'm not a Kaylee. I hope it by tomorrow morning it will make some sense to me.
What doesn't make sense to you?
I'm just
Which
not.
part?
I don't know. I'm just.
You can't explain the owner's sense of the guy in the attic away. You can't explain that away. It's bli gvul because there's a truth to it. You can't explain it to the owner in a way that he's going to say, okay, yeah, I can stay there.
No, I'm asking what Akiva doesn't understand. We made it a point that everyone who tries to understand, we should give an opportunity to understand. That's what we're doing over here.
I don't know. I'm not even sure I know what to talk to.
Okay. What?
Nobody's going home.
What?
So nobody's going home.
Nobody's going home.
Well, at some point you define what we're talking about as being not understandable.
And yet, it is real.
Yeah.
What we're trying to identify is that which is real, but you see that this is beyond the Masechel. In other words, it is not something created by the world, it's something like created by the creator of the world. That's what it is. That's why we don't know Yesh Miyayin, but the world is real.
More stable.
Who is Daniel? Do you exist?
Until proven the contrary, yes.
Were you here 100 years ago?
Was I here 100 years ago?
Previous
Not,
Gilgal.
not in a physical way.
But you weren't here in a physical
I was
way.
a neshama floating around.
I'm talking about you, not the neshama.
Okay.
You weren't here. How did you get here all of a sudden?
Hashem made me exist from the combination of two cells.
Of what? Of a father and a mother.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you understand how a father and mother begets a child?
It's very mysterious.
I'm sorry.
It is very mysterious.
Very mysterious. Okay. But then it happens.
Yeah.
And you can feel yourself, right? You're really there.
Yeah.
You feel yourself physically, you feel yourself spiritually. You're really there. Okay. And yet, this is beyond. This is a phenomenon, a truth that is beyond our seichel, our limited seichel, our worldly seichel.
Mm-hmm.
But our neshama seichel understands that there is such a thing, that not there is such a thing. That the primary reality is a godly reality, and God, and that is what makes everything be. But I think that the phenomenon of the Empire State Building not satisfying your need for a home is a phenomenal thing. It clearly states that a home does not mean I have to have a place where to put my shoes or to put my things. It's completely beyond that. It's a completely different thing.
It's even beyond having physical ownership of a space in the world.
That's right.
It actually has to fit you.
Fit you. Exactly right.
You said to visualize the concept.
Huh?
You said to visualize the concept.
It has to fit in, it has to come to you in your seichel. This is what makes you unique, because you have seichel. This is why you have that quality.
See, what Yehuda is pointing out is that when he says it has to fit you, that the you is beyond the material world. That's what it seems to be implying.
You are not beyond the material world, but your right to be here is beyond the material world. Your right to be here is not granted by your claiming certain ownership of property.
Mm-hmm.
You have some kind of other presence.
This I sense, but okay.
But the fact that it has to fit him is because a person, a human being, is panemius, and if it doesn't fit him, then it's not real, because right, is this the idea that an Adam is what's real is the Shama in a goof, is panemius.
Just one more notch in there, because the world was given to a person, to a human being. The first thing that Adam Rishon was assigned to do, the first thing after it was creation, what was it?
Name Yam.
To name everything in the world.
Why is it so easy to forget that, to not recognize that most fundamental, important piece?
Because, you know why? Because we are thinking with our hands, not with our seichel. Seichel is an elusive thing, big deal. Seichel is the real human being.
So is it the neshama in the goof that it's given to, or the neshama?
The neshama in the goof. Because the neshama by itself cannot do anything in the world. And the goof by itself cannot do anything in the world either.
You also grow into a home, right?
When you acquire the Empire State Building, and I'd like to see you grow into the Empire State Building as a home.
No, I don't think that's possible.
I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
Isn't that an amazing thing?
So what is that telling us? That a person cannot he doesn't have a capacity to fulfill his mandate from the Eibishter in something that doesn't fit him. He, right?
Preordained.
No. It means that this Islamshus is b'pnimius. It's not just a presence. Okay, let us not break it down any further. Okay?
It's already tomorrow?
It's already tomorrow. Okay, I hope that we have gained some insight into this. This is of tremendous value if we did, because this is exactly what the world is denying. And our job is to counter that.
The idea of panemius for the person is that he's real within the world. Is that what we can understand from the idea of panemius, at least for our own, that a person...
Let's go.
Okay.